Hello everybody and welcome back to Neverwinter Nights, the original campaign. We just finished exploring the Neverwinter Wood, and we have an overfull capacity in our inventory, so we're going to try and sell off all the stuff we have. We are just below 81,000. I want to see what we wind up being at the end. I'm going to take a quick guess. I actually think we have a crap ton of loot. I think we have over 50,000 gold pieces worth of loot. I'm going to go with 55,000 gold pieces of loot, so I expect we're going to be at 125,000 gold pieces. No, that's not right. 135,000 gold pieces when we finish. Let's see how close I am. Alright, so I think we've done everything, and we're grand total is 141,000 gold pieces, which is pretty damn nice. And that's more than I thought we were going to get. I thought we were going to get, oh, whoops. I should speak to Nurik one more time, actually. I forgot to give him the update on the werewolves. My brother, you've returned. You have been successful already. We speak of the werewolves. I have some success in finding the boys, actually. Truly, I have little doubt that you would do well. O Port Last, the lucky indeed to have you in its midst. I found Geth. Here is his ring. Praise be to Tyr. You have done very well indeed. We are all indebted to you for this. A life restored and a threat pushed aside. Here's your reward as promised. Unfortunately, there are still other children who must be found quickly. Might you have news of them as well? I will find them for you. I'm glad to hear that. I do not wish to detain you further. I will remain here in the case that you need the assistance of Tyr. Perhaps a helpful word or two. Those children, the town prays for them. We all do. I hope you will be their savior, and may Tyr be at your side. Nice. So what did we get? We got 150 gold pieces and 74 experience. I'll take it. Alright, I think we only have 2 of the 3 gems that are needed for Elaith. So let's go into the barracks here, and we can actually talk to a lot of these people. I think that I have some items for them that will advance their quest lines. And we already know that Dalen gave us his advance, so that'll be good enough to get items from everyone else. Let's see. I think we mostly use Sharwins and Boddyknock Glinckles, so we can start with those 2. Alright, let's talk to Boddyknock.
Good to see you again, though in actual fact I cannot say I am really surprised.
When I heard Erebeth was recruiting people to aid in the search for the cult behind the Wailing Death, it was a simple, logical leap to assume you would be one of those recruited. What are you doing here, Boddyknock? When we parted ways, COVID, I meant to contribute to my, continue my explorations of the North, but then I heard Erebeth was recruiting mercenaries to join in the search for the cult behind the plague. You may have discovered a cure for the plague and fleshed out those behind it, COVID, but the process by which this Wailing Death was spawned has not yet been determined. Given my scientific interest in the plague, and my desire to ensure it will never again be unleashed upon Faerun, it was only logical that I answer Erebeth's call for aid. So you were conscripted into service by Erebeth? When Erebeth recruited the mercenaries, we were all paid in advance for our services. Well paid. Lord Nasher is sparing no expense in tracking down these cultists. Our instructions were simply to make ourselves available to whomever requires our assistance. So in that spirit, is there anything I can do for you? I could use a sorcerer by my side, Boddyknock. Then I will be glad to join you in your cause, COVID. It is an honor to serve with a hero such as you. I will follow you and perform to the best of my abilities according to the orders you have given me. Anytime you wish to issue new orders, you have only to speak to me again.
Is there something you need?
I just want to talk for a while. I'm a staunch proponent of the free exchange of ideas, COVID. What is it you wish to know? If we're going to be traveling together, I'd like to know a little bit more about you. As you know, I come from Lanton, an island renowned for its inventions and scientific advances. From that, you can rightly conclude that I myself am an analytical and curious nature. You also know I'm a sorcerer, and from that you can also no doubt draw further conclusions, though in all truth, my chosen profession is rather uncommon among the Lantonese culture. Why are sorcerers so uncommon in Lanton? The mysteries of the arcane are not as eagerly sought in my homeland as they are in other places. We have inventions to accomplish many of the things that others rely on magic to perform. In my homeland, there is no shame attached to what I do. It is merely seen as unusual, though I will admit it is not in the future my father envisioned for me. I was his eldest son, and I suppose my father wanted me to follow his own footsteps, but flowers, plants, and gardens never held much interest for me. What was he, a druid? Druids worship nature, COVID, But we in Lantern seek to control and direct nature, to extract that which is useful and remove that which is harmful. Agron Agronomy is a well-respected field in Lantern, and my father was one of the finest horticulturalists in the island. His pioneering research in cross-pollination and grafting techniques was responsible for the creation of 26 unique species of plants. Because of my father's work, Lantern's agricultural yields increased, as did the island's supply of medicinal herbs. And the beauty and variety of our flowering species is unparalleled anywhere on the mainland. He sounds like a great man. A finer gnome could not be found, the length and breadth of Faroon, Covid. I suppose that is why I find the gulf that has grown between us so painful to accept. What do you mean? My father and I had a falling out. Please, Covid, this is difficult for me to speak of. I'm not sure I wish to discuss this with you right now. Perhaps later I will be in the mood to speak more of my tale. But for now, should focus on your mission. The cult responsible for the Wailing Death must be found.
Is there something you need?
I just want to talk for a while. Alright, let's keep going. Skip a line. This is difficult for me to speak of, Covid. What happened between my father and I, our falling out, is a painful memory. But maybe if I share the tale with someone else, I can ease some of the pain and guilt I feel over what happened. That is a logical assumption, isn't it? What happened? My father's days of groundbreaking research in agronomy are behind him. He's an old man content to putter in his own garden, happily living out his days among his friends and family. But even so, he still receives gifts of strange and exotic plants from distant lands, so he can add them to his garden. It is said that in spring, when the flowers bloom, my father's yard is the most beautiful place on Lantern. It truly is his pride and joy. Let me guess, you destroyed his garden. I wish it had been the only consequences of my action, Covid. My father asked me to tend his garden for a few weeks while he went to visit a friend on the other side of the island. Everything went well the first week, and I found the work enjoyable enough, though hardly as stimulating as my sorcerer's studies. I even came up with a more efficient watering system he could use on his plants. But in the second week, I noticed the beginning of a rotweed infestation. Rotweed? I never heard of it. Rotweed is a vile, noxious crawling vine with a foul, pungent odor. Unchecked, it will overrun any garden in a matter of weeks, choking the life from every other plant. Even worse, the roots release a powerful toxin into the earth, poisoning the soil so nothing else will grow on the land for years. And like most unwanted garden guests, rotweed is virtually impossible to kill. What did you do? The only way to deal with rotweed is through fire applied directly to the vines. If you can make the fire hot enough, the flames will be absorbed into the plant and burn down the root, to the root, killing the weed. I still remember my father as a child using oil and torches to destroy a rotweed infestation. It was long and difficult work, for the vine is resistant to fire, and it is difficult to make the flames hot enough to wither the roots. However, I had no such worries as I went out into the garden that morning. The infestation had only just begun, and I had a secret weapon. After all, I was a sorcerer. The visions of how pleased my father would be at the efficiency of my methods, I approached the weed and unleashed a burning hand spell directly at the vine. But something went wrong, didn't it? I made the mistake of approaching the problem with all the necessary data. My actions were illogical in the context of my knowledge, but I was operating under a fatally flawed assumption. There was a reason my father used oil and torches to eliminate the infestation, rather than sending for the local mage. Magical fire destroys rotweed, but the intense heat causes the plant to violently explode. The vine burst, spewing out molten sap that ignited everything it touched. The roots ignited in the earth, and columns of flame erupted from the soil, raining blazing bits of vegetation down all around me. Were you hurt? Miraculously, I was unharmed by the conflagration, though the entire garden was soon ablaze, as was my father's house, the houses of our neighbors on either side, and the houses of our neighbors on either side. No one was injured, and for that at least I am grateful. But by the time the fire brigade doused the flames, all 3 houses were ruined, and my father's prize-winning garden was nothing but ash. You burned down 3 houses and destroyed your father's garden? That's horrible. I am well aware of the terrible nature of my tragedy, Covid, and what cost it had on my father. My father is a wealthy man, so he did not begrudge me the compensation he had to pay to his neighbors, or the cost of replacing his own home. But his garden was utterly destroyed, and for that he has never forgiven me. Maybe they misspelt it there. Someday I can make it up to him, Covid, but some gesture to heal the pain I have caused him. Like what? Please, I don't wish to discuss this any longer. The memory was too painful. Perhaps later I will be in a mood to speak more of my tale, but for now we should focus on my mission. The cult responsible for the Wailing Death must be found. Alright, let's finish this up.
There's something unique.
The pain of what happened with my father, or how I destroyed the garden he had spent a lifetime cultivating, is very painful, personal pain, COVID. But you have proved yourself to be a good friend after all. It was you who helped me find the leavened bread. I suppose it's only logical to expect you might be able to help me with my father as well. What do you want me to do? I know I can never replace the many varieties of plants and flowers that were once in my father's garden. Perhaps if I make a grand gesture, he will find it in his heart to forgive me. Throughout my father's life, there has been one flower he had longed to see more than any other, but one which he has never been able to acquire. Among the great library of Lantern there are accounts of the prism blossom, a living, growing flower whose petals are said to change color and reflect the light as they were made of crystal. So why don't you get him one of these prism blossoms? The account of the flower occurs on only one text, the travel diary of an explorer who died several centuries ago after returning from a journey to the north. No one has ever been able to locate this rare flower or its gleaming crystal seeds, though many have spent a lifetime searching for it. It may be the prism blossom is only a myth, COVID, but if I could find the seeds of this flower and give them to my father, I'm certain he would forgive me for destroying his garden. I will not abandon the search for this cultist behind the plague. I have pledged to aid you in destroying those who release the foul taint of the Wailing Death. But part of me is hoping that in our journeys we will be lucky enough to stumble across the crystalline seeds of the prism blossom. I have some strange seeds here. Are these what you're looking for? Let me see. Yes, these are the seeds do seem to be made of glass, and their shape and size are consistent with the accounts of the travel diary. You have done it, COVID. Nice. When I present these seeds to my father, he is certain to forgive me. Thank you, COVID, but I'm afraid the only reward I have to give you is my thanks. The reward you offer is greater than you know, Boddyknock. Although I have no reward to repay you, COVID, there may yet be some benefit to you in aiding me in this quest. Lanternese artifacts draw their energy from the thrill of discovery and the wonder of exploration. This remarkable discovery may have augmented the powers of the ring I gave you earlier. In any case, I thank you once again, COVID, but I will not leave your side yet. Only after we have located the cult behind the Wailing Death will I return to my homeland and present these seeds to my father. Nice. So let's see what we got. We got 200 experience points, and we now have a Lanternese ring plus 3. In place of our Lanternese ring plus 1. And what that gives us is plus 3 to charisma now rather than plus 1, which is just a straight up plus 1 to our persuade check whenever we use it. Nice. Excellent. I know I'm pretty sure that the journal is the Linu's next item, so we'll go with her next.
Hello. I had hoped that you would show up here, my friend. I heard that Erebeth recruited you to stamp out the evil cult that was responsible for the plague.
Linu, what a pleasant surprise. I thought we had parted on for good, COVID, but the goddess has her own plans that I must follow. I went back to the Trade of Blades to prepare myself for a journey home. I was only there a few hours when I was approached by Lady Erebeth on behalf of Lord Nasher himself. She told me that Lord Nasher is determined to root out the cult that brought so much suffering to his city. He has ordered all of the mercenaries in Neverwinter to come to Port Last to join the search. I was afraid I might have missed you while I was changing my clothes. Changing your clothes? Oh, when I came here, a waitress spilled some drinks. She soaked your clothes? Well, no. I bumped into her, and when the drinks crashed down, I leapt backwards into a dwarf, knocking over his ale and stew. So that messed you up? No. The food and drinks landed on the floor, but the dwarf crashed into a half-orc, causing the knife he was eating to slice open his cheek. That's when the brawl started. And you wrecked your outfit in the brawl? I managed to stay out of the brawl, hiding under a table and feeling awfully guilty. When the fight was over, I felt I should help clean up this mess. So you got dirty cleaning up? No, I wore an apron and managed to stay pretty clean. Then I stepped outside for a breath of fresh air, and I managed to, and slipped in a mud puddle. So then I had to go change. Why didn't you just tell me you slipped in a puddle from the start? I didn't want you to think I was clumsy. I was waiting here at the orders of Lady Erebeth. So you're working for Erebeth? Lord Nasher ordered all the mercenaries to come to Port Last to help discover the whereabouts of the cult that nearly destroyed his city. I spent weeks wearing myself out, trying to help ease the suffering of the plague victims. I jumped at the opportunity to bring the culprits to justice. I I often am in need of a skilled healer. Join me. It would be a great pleasure, Covid. I look forward to our adventures together. I will follow you and perform to the best of my abilities according to the orders you have given me. At any time you wish to issue new orders, you have only to speak to me again. Alright, let's do it.
Hey there, dear. What can I do for you?
I just want to talk for a while. I love chatting with you, but don't you think we should focus on your mission right now? Tell me, how do you like being an adventurer? I always wanted to be an adventurer, Covid. I have a natural curiosity about everything, and I wanted to experience the things I read in books. I am from Everesca, the home of philosophers, mages, scholars, and students of the mysteries. Adventurous souls are few, and they are often looked down upon, except one. Oh, who is that? Synth was a handsome, charismatic, intelligent, adventurous archaeologist. He was respected within Everesca and other intellectual circles in places like Waterdeep. He was considered the most eligible bachelor in Everscara. Your husband? Actually, I didn't like him at first. I was reading a text on an ancient race one night in the temple library. The author was writing about his adventurers, seeking lost relics in exotic, dangerous locales. I slammed the book on the table, calling the author a lying, pompous fool. Another elf was sitting on a chair near me with his face in a book. He asked me what I was reading. I told him the name of the book, and he laughed. In my youthful arrogance, I went on to list a large number of errors in the author's logic. Was it really that bad? When I finished, he began to refute every point I had made. It was, I quickly discovered, synth lineral. When I realized the mistake I had made, I screamed and ran from the room. Despite my blundering, I must have made an impression on him, for he pursued me from that day on. Eventually, he won my heart, though only through an act that almost cost him his life. What did he do? Let us not talk of such things right now, sweet Covid. We must hunt down the cult responsible for the Wailing Death. Perhaps we can speak of this later, when the time is right. Time is right now.
Hey there, dear. What can I do?
I'd like to know more of your story, Linu. You want to know why Synth won my heart, Covid? I guess I could tell you about it. I couldn't face Synth since our embarrassing encounter. I had decided never to be near him again. Easier said than done when dealing with a daring adventurer. One night, he scaled the 10-story wall of my parents' home and climbed through the window. 10-story wall? Your parents must be rich. Well, it's not 10 stories anymore. Not since the explosion, but that's a different story, and not one I want to get into. As he began to quietly serenade me, I sat bolt upright in bed and opened my mouth to scream. He jumped towards me to quiet me, but I didn't know it was him, so I brought my foot up and kicked him in the jaw. He stumbled backwards out onto the balcony. I leapt up to continue my attack, but when I got to the balcony, I saw his face in the moonlight. He was holding his jaw, his face wrinkled in pain. You mean you broke his jaw? I just bruised him, but it must have hurt a lot, because when I realized what I had done, I moved to help him, and he must have thought I was attacking him again. He leapt over the edge of the balcony, since he didn't want to have to hurt me to stop me, or so he said later. I thought he would fall and kill himself, so I ran over to stop him. He had grabbed the edge of the balcony floor between the rails, and was trying to swing himself toward the lower terrace. I didn't see his fingers, though. Tell me you didn't. I stepped right on his hand, causing him to slip off the edge, and he managed to hang on with his left hand, though. Fearing he would die, I called on Sahanine for the strength to save him. I felt power flow into my muscles, and I reached over the edge, grabbing his hand. I pulled, heard a loud popping noise, and hauled him over the wall, dislocated shoulder and all. At least he survived. I don't think he was terribly thankful at first. He just lay on the balcony, trying to hold his shoulder and rub his jaw. I was trying to apologize, but he just kept begging me not to touch him. Finally, I got frustrated with his protests, and I grabbed his shoulder, popped it back into place, then cast a healing spell on him to relieve the pain. Did he forgive you? I never gave him the chance to think about it. I helped him up, kissed him soundly, then led him into my bedchambers and removed any thought of flight from his mind. Good for you. We were very close after that night, and we married a year later. Those were the happiest years of my life. I just wish they could have lasted. What do you mean? What happened? I can't talk about that right now. The memories are too unpleasant. Let us not talk about such things sweet Covid. We must hunt down the cult responsible for the Wailing Death. Perhaps we can speak on this later when the time is right. Brushing me off, huh? Let's hear more of your story. You have been a true friend to me, Covid. I have been reluctant to speak to you about this, but you did help me recover the chalice. Perhaps you can help me with this as well. Synth retired from his venturing life for a couple of years. Then one day, he came home with the news that he had discovered the location of an ancient city. I knew as soon as he uttered those words that he would be off on another adventure of his grand adventures. I wanted to go with him, but I was involved in preparing for a special celebration for the temple. He wouldn't wait for you? I think he had waited for a time when I was I think he had waited for a time when I wasn't wrapped up in something I couldn't get out of. It was his way of protecting me. Synth had a friend who was a mage created a pair of journals. We could write to each other and be in contact every day. I don't know why, but he never wrote to me about his day or his quest. Instead, he would write about his thoughts and philosophies on life and the mysteries. I wish he had written more about where he went. Why is that? The last entry he wrote, he spent several pages telling me how much he loved me, and that no matter what happened to him, I must go on. I knew something was wrong, and I begged him to tell me, but he ignored my pleas. The last thing he wrote was that he could hear them coming again. That was it. COVID, someday I shall find the caves Synth was exploring, and I will try to find that journal. I think that if I could do that, I would be able to get past his ghost that haunts my dreams. We will find the cultist COVID, and justice shall be done. Then perhaps I can resume my quest. I'm certain that the journal must exist somewhere, and that someday I shall find it. I found this journal. It has your husband's name on it. That's it. Oh, Synth, my beloved, you really are gone then. I thought it would be easier than this. I knew he was, but it still hurts. Oh, COVID, quarantine. It's all my fault. You must leave me before my bad luck kills you too. It wasn't your fault, Linu. I'm not going to leave you. Oh, COVID, quarantine. I wish that I could believe. I don't know what I wish. I just need some time, but thanks. Thank you for your words. Thank you, COVID. You have proven to be a true friend once again. My heart will heal in time. I must tell you something. As our friendship grows, so will the power of the pendant I gave you. I think that you shall find it stronger now than it was before. That's a wonderful gift, Linu. Thank you. It is little in comparison to what you have done for me, but I do appreciate it, and you have my friendship and admiration as well. Now let us go and bring those responsible for the plague to justice. Alrighty, so we got an increase to our pendant. Another 200 experience points. So now our dex bonus is +3. Nice. Alright, I think that is a good place to wrap up this episode. Next episode, we will talk to the other companions that we have the quest items for and try and upgrade our gear further. Alright, I'll catch you guys next time.